Hello, fellow faith seekers. Welcome back to Bite-Size Faith, the channel where we take those epic Bible stories and give them a fresh, modern twist. I'm Claire Claiborne, your storytelling guide, and today, we're diving into the tale of a guy who tried to run from his purpose, but learned the hard way that you can't outrun God's plan. Yep, we're talking about Jonah. But instead of a prophet from ancient times, we're bringing Jonah into today's world. So, sit back, grab your snacks, and let's get into it. Meet Jonah Grant. Jonah's a 30-something marketing executive living in bustling Los Angeles. He's a creative genius, known for his clever ad campaigns and out-of-the-box thinking. But he's also a bit stubborn and set in his ways. Definitely not the kind of guy who likes stepping out of his comfort zone. Jonah is perfectly happy with his city life. The beach, the parties, the trendy restaurants. But one day, everything changes. Jonah feels a sudden, strong urge to do something different. Something he's never done before. Help a community in crisis. But not just any community. It's a small town in the middle of nowhere called Ninetown, where people are struggling with poverty and addiction. And Jonah? He's like, thanks, but no thanks, God. I'm good right here. But God had other plans for him, and he was not about to let him off easy. The next few weeks, Jonah wasn't able to enjoy his usual comforts. The city's hustle and bustle began to annoy him. The beaches that used to invite him to unwind and reflect had no peace, and the coffee shops that he enjoyed just became unenjoyable. It was as if everything had lost its flavor. LA was becoming insufferable, and Ninetown, he couldn't escape thinking about it. Day in and day out. God's voice wouldn't let him even rest. But Jonah, being more stubborn than ever, refused to believe that a place like that needed him. I mean, they didn't even have a coffee shop, let alone a 5-star hotel. Jonah thought to himself, maybe I need a change in aesthetic, a different vibe, something a little bigger and less, well, LA. Truly, that will be inspiring, right? So what does Jonah do? Instead of listening to that little voice inside, yep, you guessed it, God's voice, he books a ticket to New York City. The Big Apple's where I'll find inspiration, he thinks. Away from all this pressure to do something out of my comfort zone. Jonah hops on a plane, thinking he's outsmarted God. But here's the thing, fellow faith seekers. You can't run from what you're meant to do. Jonah's in his first-class seat, sipping on a fancy latte, feeling pretty smug about his decision. But then, halfway through the flight, the plane hits some serious turbulence. And I'm not talking about a little bumpy ride. I mean, the plane is shaking, passengers are panicking, and Jonah? He knows in his heart exactly what's going on. The pilot comes over the intercom, announcing that they have to make an emergency landing. And as the plane makes a sharp turn back west, Jonah's stomach drops. Not because of the turbulence, but because he knows God is calling him out. Jonah is stranded in Phoenix, of all places. And it's here, during this unexpected layover, that he feels completely swallowed by his situation. Kind of like being inside a big, dark fish. He's alone. His phone's dead. And he's got no clue what to do next. He checks into a dingy motel and finally breaks down, praying for guidance, admitting he messed up big time. Jonah spends the next 3 days in Phoenix, stuck in that tiny motel room, reflecting on his choices. And finally, he gets it. All right, God, he says. I'm ready to listen. Tell me where you need me. And just like that, things start to change. Jonah feels a renewed sense of purpose. He books a bus ticket, not a plane this time, straight to Ninetown. When he arrives, he sees the community's struggles firsthand, but he also sees their spirit, their hope. And for the first time in his life, Jonah feels like he's exactly where he's supposed to be. Jonah uses his marketing skills to help local businesses thrive, creates programs for the youth, and even sets up a weekly community gathering to bring everyone together. And guess what? The town begins to transform, little by little. And Jonah? He's happier than he's ever been, knowing he's fulfilling his purpose. Jonah realizes that running away from God's calling only leads to more trouble. When he finally faced his fears and followed where God led him, he found not just a town in need, but his own true purpose. And that's a message for all of us, fellow faith seekers. Sometimes, what we're afraid of doing is exactly what we're meant to do. So there you have it, my fellow faith seekers. The story of Jonah Grant reminds us that no matter how far we run, or how loud we try to drown out that little voice inside, God's calling will always find a way to reach us. And when we finally listen, well, that's when the real adventure begins. Until next time, keep believing, keep following your purpose, and stay blessed. If this story inspired you, don't forget to like, comment, and share it with someone who might need a little push to answer their own calling. Remember, you never know who might need a bite of faith.